Okay, week 11. It's moving fast. I think most of us would agree it feels that way. Your life and your experience, of course, will vary. And but we are at that point in the semester where in week 11, and let's just take a look because, I've been touting the importance of using the calendar. And so as I wait for just a moment here, let me change it to our course and realize, right, I just finished week 9, okay? And, again, hopefully you're getting used to the process. I think you probably are. And so week 10, which is for me next week, right? We're going to be on break then. So spring break hits us the last week, the last of March, beginning of April, right? So this is where it falls. So, which means this week that I'm recording is after spring break, which means, I got a point in here somewhere, right? Um, that the end of the semester, once we come back, right? So then, did I hit too many weeks? April. Oh, right. So I did hit too many weeks. So then week 11 comes at us after this. Okay. So it's really April, the rest of what will be April, and then part of May, and then we'll be done. Right. But then you think of just the number of weeks that we're at. So here we are. I'm recording for week 11. So 18 weeks in the semester, right? Really, that last week is just the finals week. So you could kind of say it's 7 weeks at this point, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, roll over in 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I guess my point about this is to make sure that you're understanding the end of the semester. I've probably talked about it 3 or 4 times, and if you've missed work in the past, you can still make it up. It is discounted 25%. So I can't emphasize enough. I guess it depends on you. Now, and the reason I'm bringing this up now too is that you may watch this before spring break. And some of you, I've noticed, there's a good handful of you, more than a handful, like 2 handfuls at least, that typically, as soon as I post content, have already started looking at it. Okay, so that's awesome. And we're now working on Access, which is the database, and we haven't even really talked too much about it in this particular forum. But I can just tell you, having some kind of database experience will help you. And if you find that your work with the data with Access, first there's just learning the program, and then there's learning the concepts of what it means to build a database. Okay. We do have classes that focus on this further. I think it's one of those really in demand skills. Not, I think it's actually documented. I should have reference to my statements, which brings me back to week 9 because I just graded it. And I have to say, I think we got the highest participation from you all in week 9. If you scroll back and look at week 9, it was the week you talked to that I had you do the digital information and fact checking. And the one thing I want to say I saw a couple of times was that there is a process that was talked about in using that, like, what was the statement, who said it, what were they motivated by, and can you verify it? And some of you got all those steps, some of you missed some of them. But I think more importantly is having the exposure to how you evaluate statements that you hear. So I hope you walked away with that. But I guess I was kind of pausing there as I was making a statement to make sure I could validate it. And actually, I have seen, I can't reference on my fingertips, but I know I've seen data that shows employers, and here's where I've gotten it from, is that employers have a need to have people with data analytical skills. So the first step in that process is having an understanding of how the database works, how it stores the information, how you get that information out. And what you're learning during these access labs is really just how to use a program that is storing database information and how to extract it. In some ways, how to store it, but the database concepts are a little nuanced in there. So, but it really also lends itself kind of just completing that concept of the importance of learning access. You will have a lab test like you did with Word and Excel after we get through 4 sections. And then you will have 2 PowerPoints that won't have an actual lab test, but you will have a programming assignment, which I will talk about in week 12 because we'll focus a little on coding in that week. But this week's discussion, and I want to emphasize this again because a couple of you did this and just didn't know what happens is when I see it, is that remember, your writing for these discussion boards is a narrative style. And what that means is that even though I say, I list a number, like make sure your post covers these concepts, it's not that you answer that way because this is college level writing. Part of this class is meant to have that requirement met that you have had a class. This class meets a college level requirement writing. Now, so just keep that in mind. It's narrative. So, and you do have to do a reply to get full points. This week's topic. I don't want to say this every week because it's probably not true, although it feels true because we're covering such big topics, right? But passwords and security in the world we live in couldn't be more important because it's a way we secure our bank accounts, our email, our Canvas, for us, Web Advisor. You can think of, in my life, there's so many different ways. And I really look forward to the day that I don't have to remember passwords. And there are systems. LastPass is a system. Google has a system. So there are systems that will generate strong passwords. And that's one of the things to think about, and including checking a site to see if you've been pwned, right? This idea of being pwned or owned, somebody has hacked your data, right? And, so just take this assignment as serious as the content of what we're talking about. Understanding first, and sometimes you might actually have a moment of like, should I even put my information? Ask it, have I been pwned? That's a good question, right? But I think more importantly is like, how much thought do you give to your passwords? And there's always this balance of the stronger the password, the harder it is to remember. So that's why strong passwords that are saved into some kind of system that will remember your site are a good way to go for some people. The other process I've seen people use is called a password policy, where they'll take the website that they're creating maybe a new password for and integrate it somehow into a standard password. Because the thing you don't want to do, though, is have your same password used across many platforms. And why is that? Well, if you think about it, if somebody gets a hold of one of your passwords, then the chances they will think, well, maybe they use that password. The chances are you may use that password on other sites, so they'll just start going down the list of commonly used sites and see if they can use that password for you. So that's one of the things. So having some kind of unique combination that is for your site and your password policy is also another way to go. But I want you to think about this week the importance of that, and used a couple of these websites to say how strong these passwords are, right? So keep these really important topics because we live in an age, all of us are working from home, right? You may have work out in the world, but you're doing this classwork in the confines of your own computer, but it is attached to the larger internet that then you're logging into a system. So you're putting in a password across a hopefully secured site. And it's really important that you always look for that secured key, that lock in Chrome or whatever browser you're using to make sure when you do give personal information over, it is kept as much as possible private. We also live in a day and age right now where there's so much going on in the cyber attack space. I don't know if you've heard of SolarWinds. I've actually, it's not covered here, but it is a very current topic. I was listening just the other night about this, and I'd already known about this security company SolarWinds, but to think that, and again, there's not confirmation completely yet. Pretty close. We know what country it was that, kind of put something in the software so that they could spy on all the companies who are using this software. And many, many companies and the federal state governments are using SolarWinds to secure their own sites. And to think somebody made that software insecure is pretty disturbing. So let's do our best to secure our own private data and hope that we all learn a collective lesson and get better at this stuff because it is important. Anyway, I hope you find some good information out of this week. Week 11 after spring break. You'll be doing this after spring break. So remember, spring break is a week to take off. So if you can, please do that. If you are trying to get caught up, that's a good time to do it. But I do not assign any work during spring break. So, and hope whatever you do, you find some joy and happiness in that. So, peace out.